Sir David Lean, who could, though I'm sure he's far too modest to do so, lay claim to being Britain's most distinguished film director, was 80 at the end of last week. And tonight we devote Film 88 to the man and his work. Good evening. Well, just to fill in the background, let me tell you that Sir David was born in Croydon in 1908, went into the film industry as a tea boy when he was 20, and from there worked his way up to editor and eventually director. In that capacity, he once said, "I hope the money men don't find out that I'd pay them to let me do this," which makes it a little surprising that his output has been so small, only 16 films in 46 years. On the other hand, look at the films in which we serve: Blithe Spirit, Brief Encounter, The Bridge on the River Kwai, Lawrence of Arabia, Ryan's Daughter. And look at the honours that have come his way. 2 Oscars for Kwai and Lawrence, 7 other nominations, a CBE, and in 1984 a knighthood for services to the British film industry. Now, it being a well-known fact that this snobbish programme doesn't talk to anybody under the rank of knight, previous guests in here have been Sir Richard Attenborough and Sir Alec Guinness, we invited Sir David to the studio the other day with the following results. Well, Sir David, first of all, belated many happy returns on your 80th birthday.
Oh, thank you.
I was just wondering, do you have any profound thoughts on reaching 80?
None at all. In fact, I find it terribly hard to believe that I am 80. I suppose I worried about this a bit because I thought it's somehow childish not to realise how old you are. I think I don't look in the mirror much, and I see through the same eyes, and I think I must be the same as I see, and of course I'm not.
Well, I've got to tell you, you don't look 80. To start with.
Well, that's good.
And also, of course, there is the obvious thought that the alternative to reaching 80 is not reaching 80, which is a great deal worse.
Very good. Yes.
The Gainsborough Studios, where David Lean worked as a film editor before going on to direct. How important was it to have been an editor when you finally became a director?
It's everything. You know, I often wonder at directors who've never been editors. Because... Oh, really? Well, it's right. I just don't understand how they go to work, because I'm sitting there, and if I'm directing you, I'm saying, yes, good, good, good to myself. Yes, I can cut to the 2-shot there. I have to retake that in the close-up. That'll be good on him. And so, all right, cut. Now, let's go again. One more take. And that sort of thing, you know. And I kind of piece it together as we're making it. And editing is one of the, if not the, chief of the tools of my trade. Yes, because Trevor Howard once said that he felt that you couldn't wait to get rid of the actors and get into the cutting room and cut them out of the film. Well, partially true, but...
partially true. Yes.
Partially true, yes. I mean, they can be a real pain in the neck, actors. Actually, Trevor wasn't. I mean, he used to tipple a bit too much, but he was a wonderful actor.
Yes, he was. He deserved far more credit than he ever got, I thought, within the industry.
Funny that, isn't it? He never got the credit that he deserved, I think.
Yeah. Lean's first film as a director was In Which We Serve in 1941, although in fact he shared that credit with Noel Coward, who also wrote and starred in the picture. A valuable apprenticeship for Lean, the recipient of much sound advice from the master.
He used to say, "My dear, it's just no good wandering through the woods hoping for inspiration. It will not come." And he's right, of course.
Well, you seem to have adopted exactly the same policy to your filmmaking ever since. I mean, you don't wander through the woods seeking inspiration a lot, do you?
No, it doesn't happen, no.
But does that preclude spontaneity? If everything is very carefully set up before you actually go, does it mean there's no room for spontaneity in a film?
No, it doesn't. You know, a script, I like getting as much of the film on paper as I possibly can, but it's a kind of blueprint. But there's always room for spontaneity, always room. There are so many facets of it. I mean, for instance, you've waited for one day when it's pouring with rain. Now, what you do, wait for a second day? No, you don't. You think, how can we change the scene so we can play it in rain? You know, that sort of thing. And all the time you're having to change things in the making of a movie.
But you didn't do that on Ryan's Daughter, did you? Because the famous David Lean story is of you waiting days, if not weeks, for one particular moment so that you could take one of the final shots of the film. Is that a true story?
Of course it's not. I remember some terrible journalist came to me and said rather earnestly, "Mr. Lean, is it true you wait 5 weeks for a wave?" And I said, "Look, I'd be out of a job if I did." And that started off several years before, saying that I'd wait 3 weeks for a cloud. Completely rubbish.
After the war, Lean added to his already considerable reputation with 2 superb adaptations of Dickens, Oliver Twist and Great Expectations. What was it that attracted you to those Dickens subjects, Great Expectations and Oliver Twist? Is it the importance of a strong story, a strong plot, strong characters? What?
Good story and tremendous characters, rather outsize.
Well, Joe, I am glad to see you.
Pip, dear old chap, you've growed and you've swelled, and you gentlefolk has to be sure you're an honour to your king and country.
And you, Joe, look wonderfully well. Give me your hat. Oh, Herbert, this is Mr. Joe Gargery. Joe, Mr. Herbert Pocket.
How do you do, Mr. Gargery?
Your servant, sir.
Won't you sit down?
Thank you kindly, sir.
Will you take tea or coffee, Mr. Gargery?
Oh, thank you kindly, sir. I'll take whichever is most agreeable to yourself.
What do you say to coffee?
Thank you kindly, sir. Since you are so good as to make choice of coffee, I'll not run contrary to your opinions. But don't you find that rather heating?
Say tea, then.
I realise more and more that reality on the screen, which used to be the thing to aim at, is a sort of bore. I don't mean that the audience should sit there and say, "Oh, that's unreal." But movies are a kind of dream, aren't they? Mm. And I think they should have an unreal edge to them. And that's what I try to do.
Yeah, but you see, against that, there's Brief Encounter, which really had a very real edge to it, didn't it? I mean, it is still regarded, I think, as probably the most romantic, truly romantic British film ever made. Don't you think?
You know, I don't know about Brief Encounter. I saw it the other day, and I thought it was rather good. And I saw it a couple of years ago, and I thought it was pretty awful. And the magic of that film, Celia Johnson. Mm. She was wonderful.
You don't row very well, do you?
I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I don't row at all. And unless you want to go round and round in ever-narrowing circles, you'd better start steering.
Oh, we had such fun, Fred. I felt gay and happy and sort of released. That's what's so shameful about it all. That's what would hurt you so much if you knew. That I could feel as intensely as that, away from you, with a stranger. Oh, look out! We can't get through.
Pull on your left.
Oh, dear, I never could tell left from right.
I'm most awfully sorry.
In a particularly fertile spell between 1948 and 1955, David Lean made 6 films, including The Sound Barrier, which co-starred his then-wife Anne Todd and Ralph Richardson, Hobson's Choice, Harold Brighouse's northern working-class comedy with Charles Laughton and John Mills, and Summer Madness, which starred Katharine Hepburn and won the director an Oscar nomination. It was on this latter picture that he developed the taste for working on location that led to his first epic, The Bridge on the River Kwai.
It seemed a very risky film. At the time, Columbia nearly stopped it after 3 weeks. I found out at the end of the film.
Why?
Because there were no white women in it, and we wrote in a very terrible scene, or they said they would stop it, between Bill Holden and a nurse. Completely unnecessary. I wish I could get it out of the videos now.
You're right, it is totally unnecessary, isn't it?
Completely, but it seemed terribly necessary for them, and that caused the financing to go on for that film.
Now, was Alec Guinness your first choice for the major? He wasn't?
No, there's a ludicrous story that Alec contributes to that I wanted Charlie Laughton. Well, in fact, only the other day I found out that the whole story started because I wanted Charlie Laughton for one of H.G. Bates's stories called The Cruise of the Breadwinner, which he'd have been wonderful in. And that, anyhow, he didn't do it, and the film was never made. It would have been terrific, I think. And I found out that Alec was told that I wanted Charlie Laughton. Now, can you imagine Charlie Laughton?
Not easily.
You know, it's impossible. A great big fat man in a starving prisoner of war camp. And there were all sorts of people. Cary Grant was suggested. That was no good. Larry Olivier turned it down. And I think Alec was the next one. And he was wonderful.
I must call your attention, Colonel Saito, to Article 27 of the Geneva Convention. Belligerents may employ as workmen prisoners of war who are physically fit other than officers.
Give me the book.
By all means. You read English, I take it.
Do you read Japanese?
I'm sorry, no. But if it's a matter of precise translation, I'm sure that can be arranged. You see, the code specifically states that the... Stand fast in the ranks!
You speak to me of code? What code? The coward's code. What do you know of the soldier's code? Of Bushido? Nothing! You are worthy of command!
The cameras were taken away from me, the movie, the sound cameras. And I finished that film with an Aeroflex, which, as you know, is a hand camera. We did the waterfall scene, a whole lot of scenes.
Good Lord.
Which gave it a size that it hadn't got before. Anyhow, that's that.
What scene had you shot then that prompted them to say, OK, that's the end, and we'll take away the cameras now?
Alec is blown up at the end. And I foolishly took a shot of James Donald, who was the doctor, looking around the blown-up bridge and saying, madness, madness, and then walking away from camera. Now, as he walks away from camera, James was put straight onto the aeroplane, of course, as soon as he'd said madness, madness, and it was a double who is like some ghastly mannequin sort of walking across the sand. I can't bear it. I saw it the other day.
The Bridge on the River Kwai won Academy Awards for both Alec Guinness and David Lean, who went on to direct another epic, Lawrence of Arabia. This too won him an Oscar. It was again a spectacular production, but not, he thinks now, quite as spectacular as it might have been.
In Lawrence of Arabia, I don't know if you remember, I had a scene with Omar. It turns out to be Omar Sharif coming out of a desert, and he's a mirage, and it starts as a sort of wavering shape. And it ends up as this man who gets off his camel. And I cut that at double the length at one time. And then I lost my nerve, and I cut it in half, and I made it all much quicker. And when the premiere came, I could have kicked myself, because as it started, as that figure started wavering on in the distance, the audience, you could hear a pin drop, you know, and they were gripped. It was better the first time, but it did all right as it was. But you do learn things years afterwards.
Did you not replace it after that and make it long again?
No. No, it's done. You've done it.
We want 2 large glasses of lemonade.
This is a path for British officers.
That's all right. We are not particular.
Lawrence! Are you off your head?
No. Oddly enough, I'm not.
Now, look here, Lawrence. Just clear out of here, will you?
Go on, Lawrence, clear Get that boy out of here. Corporal, we'll have this one out anyway.
Get that wog out of here. Yes, clear off, inside.
Go on, get the little wog out.
What's going on?
It's Lawrence, sir.
Lemonade with ice.
Well, explain yourself.
We've taken Aqaba.
Taken Aqaba? Who has?
We have. Our side in this war has. The Wogs have. We have. He likes your lemonade.
An immensely successful film and another Oscar for you. How important do you think Oscars are?
Well, if you have no hope of getting one, they're despised. But if you have, they're very important.
That's very honest, I must say. It's easy
Very
to
nice.
Yes, it's easy to despise them if you're not in the running, isn't it?
That's right.
Because with the next film, Dr. Zhivago, you very nearly did the hat trick. You were nominated yet again. But on that one, you lost out the Best Picture to Sound of Music, I believe. Was that a little galling?
Oh, terribly, you know. Yes, but we got, you know, I tell you what killed us. Dr. Zhivago got the most terrible notices worldwide. I remember the premiere in New York. They gave a dinner at the top of one of the big hotels there, and I said, why are they all reading newspapers? They said, well, the criticisms had come in, and everybody was sitting around the table reading the newspapers. And at the end of the dinner, they all came and sort of shook my hand and said, well, David, I liked it. That sort of thing. And that did nothing to help the film. And it was disaster, and we had MGM then had a marvellous chap called Bob O'Brien, who was the boss. And he said, David, he said, I think this film's great. I'm going to back it. And he said, I'm going to spend another $1 million. And he spent $1 million on publicity and partly on keeping it on at the theatre where you could throw rocks around without loss of life. And first week empty, second week empty, third week started to increase, and the fourth week it was packed. And we took off, and that film earned me more money than all my other films put together to date.
Well, it's had an enduring popularity, that film, hasn't it? What do you think it was that gave it that?
Well, it's your old thing. I was listening to you a couple of weeks ago, Story. It's a wonderful story, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Oh, yeah. Wonderful. And you want to know what happens next. And wonderful characters, you know? Yeah. And Julie, which was quite a face.
Wouldn't it have been lovely if we'd met before?
Before we did. Yes.
We'd have got married, had a house and children. If we'd had children, Yuri, would you like a boy or a girl?
I think we may go mad if we think about all that.
I shall always think about it. Will you write today?
No, not today.
I liked Omar very much when we worked on Lawrence, and he's wonderful at taking suggestions. And I thought, well, Russian, they could be rather in that part of the world, Manchuria, and so we straightened his hair and we pulled his eyes back with tape to take the orbs out of it. He still got hacked to bits in the press because of his orbs, and I think he did very well.
Yes, he did, yeah.
He did, you know, and people sort of laugh at Omar. He was very successful tremendously good looking, which people don't really like.
Women seem to like it.
They like it, all right, yes.
What about Ryan's Daughter? Because that one, you really took a pasting from the American critics on that, didn't you?
Everybody, yes.
Yeah, well, particularly in America, I think. You were very upset by that, weren't you?
Yes, foolishly enough, I was. I wish I could sit back and laugh at it, you know. But that had a devastating effect on the success of the film. I mean, it was really... I remember the first criticism that came out was Newsweek, which said, cheap jack sets, pallid photography. Both of them got Oscars, of course.
Yes.
But it was really terrible. I didn't really want to go out to a restaurant after that was shown. Now people like it very much, and they can't believe it got such terrible notices. I think people didn't like it because they said, oh, it's David Lean doing another epic. And in this country, particularly, I think, if you do anything big and expensive, they don't really, you really are suspected quite a lot.
Why do you think that should be so?
You know, it's our upbringing, isn't it? Don't show off. And in a vague sort of way, I mean, this is a quick answer, but in a vague sort of way, I think making a great big epic with a lot of money is showing off.
Okay, ready? Right. Run up.
Speed.
1323, take 8. 1, 2, 3, action!
In Ryan's Daughter, there's one scene that is the director's particular favourite.
I think of the scene where Chris Jones has the shakes in the pub and ends up diving under a table and they kiss each other, Sarah and he. I was awfully pleased with that because Robert said to me, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, as soon as we see this bloody major driving into town, we know she's going to fall in love with him. How the hell can we get there quickly? We've got to get there ahead of the audience. And one night at 4 o'clock in the morning, I suddenly thought of this madness of him having the shakes in the pub and Johnny Mills sort of tapping the table with his foot and she going down to comfort him and ending up in a kiss, and it worked. You know, fantastic, completely unreal, what I was saying earlier.
I was amazed that, for 14 years after Ryan's Daughter, you never made another film. Why? Why not? Was it because it got such a bad review, or bad reviews?
Well, I was very stupid, as a matter of fact. I thought, why? They were universal. I don't think there was one good notice for Ryan's Daughter, really not one. And I thought, why am I doing this? You know, rather stupidly, and I went off and I started travelling.
In the end, it was E.M. Forster's novel about the British Raj, A Passage to India, that brought Lean back to work at the age of 76, although in the intervening years he had spent a great deal of time trying and failing to set up productions of both The Bounty and Gandhi. Were you pleased with A Passage to India in the end?
Sort of.
So a lot of people criticised your choice of Alec Guinness to play an Indian. Would you, with hindsight, would you do that again?
I don't think really. I think Alec could perfectly well have played an Indian. I think he got scared of it. I remember him saying to me once, I think you were asking me to give an imitation of Peter Sellers, which in fact I wasn't.
Well, it would have been disastrous, wouldn't it?
It would, rather. And so I don't think that was one of his best performances, no.
In simple terms, Miss Quested, life is a wheel with many spokes, a continuous cycle of life, birth, death, and rebirth, until we attain nirvana. I have contrived a dance based on this philosophy.
Do you dance, Professor?
Oh, yes.
Adela?
Oh, Ronnie, you're early. Let me introduce to you Professor Godberly, and this, and that...
What's happened to Fielding? Where's my mother? And what on earth are you doing?
Well, they're seeing the college, and we're eating water chestnuts. Have one.
No, thank you. We're leaving at once.
You have been criticised by people who say that your films don't actually say a lot, by which I imagine that they have no message for mankind. Is this a criticism that irks you at all?
No, not at all.
What are you looking for when you're making a film? What do you want to do?
I want to make something that, if I went to the cinema and wasn't me, I would enjoy watching. As I told you, I just love movies. And I would like to make good movies. And I think part of making a good movie, or the greater part of it, is a good story, which I know is out of fashion, and good characters. I mean, in the old days, when one went to the movies, one used to feel that one had been out and met some fascinating people. I mean, I saw the other day the Untouchables on an aeroplane, to be quite honest. And I didn't really like it at all.
You know, for somebody who says, and indeed I believe you, that you love making movies, you've made very few, 16 films in 46 years, I think. Why is that?
Oh, it scares me stiff. You know, I suppose, if I take on a movie, I want terribly to do it frightfully well. So therefore, one's got to have a very, very good script. So I spend an inordinate amount of time choosing the subject and then working on the script. And I suppose it's fair, really, to put your foot in the water.
But after all this time and a couple of Oscars and several nominations, I would have thought you could have done without the fear. You could have got rid of that by now.
It doesn't work like that, does it? Do you ever get nervous when...
All the time, yeah.
And you're doing this job? You do, yes. Well, there you are. That's the answer. It's a sort of... it's a difficult job. I mean, I feel fairly at home with you here because I'm sort of feeling my element too. And I know you like movies, but when you see that eye boring into you, it is difficult. And at this minute, my lips are rather dry. It's very difficult.
Yes, this doesn't hardly reconciles with another criticism which I've been looking into your critics, and one of them said that you have a dictatorial urge to control every aspect of the film when you're making it. Would you disagree? You might possibly disagree with dictatorial, but would you disagree with any of the rest of it, or would you disagree with none of it?
I do like to keep a close hold on everything. And I think that is what being a director is. He's encouraging a talent, encouraging things that he saw in the negative in his mind when he was doing the script, and suppressing things that seem to go against it. And so in that sort of way, I'm a kind of gentle dictator.
Sir David Lean, the gentle dictator at 80. As a footnote to the foregoing, he is even now preparing a screen version of Conrad's Nostromo. I have an idea that in 10 years' time, someone else will be sitting here asking him on his 90th birthday about his next film project. I sincerely hope so anyway. Incidentally, let me remind you that A Passage to India will be shown on BBC One over Easter, and Ryan's Daughter can be seen in a couple of weeks' time. And that's about all for tonight. Until next Tuesday night at 10:20, goodbye.